SEC staff and coaches had meetings in Florida this week, and a lot of coaches went on the Paul Feinbaum show, including Georgia head coach Kirby Smart, and he had a lot to say to Paul and the SEC network on Wednesday, and I've got all of it right here in front of me, but we're going to focus on what he had to say about the offense, what he had to say about the quarterback room. We know you guys love to hear about that. He had some things to say about Stetson Bennett, about the narrative of Georgia being a defensive team, and a whole lot more, some contract talk. Obviously, his contract is a big deal right now, but we're going to get all into that. Ryan Curley from Dog Post here, bringing you all the details on what this guy had to say on Wednesday to Paul Feinbaum about the offense and the quarterbacks. Lots of cool pictures of Kirby Smart in DAWGSTRUCTION, so make sure you're checking our insider look at the national championship with that link down below. Something that sat with me I wanted to share that he said, and some of you guys may have saw him talk about this, but he talked about how, you had 5 first-round defenders, and that's something I come on here and speak about a lot, and it is. It's a crazy stat, but he goes, that's great, but what's overshadowed is we were one of the most explosive teams in college football last year, and he's talking about the offense. And that's true. This was one of the 10 best offenses in college football as far as scoring goes. And there were a lot of explosive plays over the year. It's a true statement. I don't always agree with Kirby Smart on things, but I do agree with him about what he's talking about here. He's talking about how this defense was a generational defense, and it had Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith, Kobe Dean, all those guys, Trayvon Walker, the number 1 pick in the draft, had all those guys, and they had a phenomenal year, holding teams to about 10 points a game if you take the season in its totality. But the offense was really damn good, guys. It really was. I mean, Stetson Bennett had some explosive games. JT Daniels had an explosive game. You saw Brock Bowers really go off. A great running back room. A.D. Mitchell started to blossom, and Lab McConkey had a good year. But I mean, think about the UAB game with Stetson's 5 touchdowns and those bombs. Think about South Carolina. JT Daniels had some long balls. Think about the national championship, Stetson's pass to A.D. Mitchell, that deep ball. I'm thinking about a pass to Arian Smith. I mean, Georgia had some deep balls thrown, and they really did have some explosive plays. James Cook was very explosive. Obviously, Brock Bowers was explosive. Kenny McIntosh had some explosive plays. Zamir White had a couple of explosive plays. I remember a big Kendall Miller. This was an explosive offense that I think is only going to be more explosive as we move forward into this 2022 season. And I think it's going to be a special offense that's going to get better. I really think it's going to get better. He had a little bit more to say. Talking about 10 to 12 yard passes, we were top 5, top 10 in the country. Nobody acknowledges that because they're overshadowed by the really good defense. And we'll have to be even better on offense this year as far as explosion goes. And he's right. I mean, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of coach speak, especially from college football coaches. I think college coaches give the most coach speak, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, which is very generic things to say. And Kirby is, one of the kings of that, giving the coach speak, but he's speaking facts here. He is, because he's always talking about getting better, as a lot of coaches do, and that's something that they're going to have to do this year. Georgia's going to have to get better on offense, because everyone kind of assumes the defense is going to take a step back, so they need to get better on offense, and that's assuming is not a great thing to do in this world, as we all know. Assuming things is not always the best thing to do, but it's not a crazy assumption to think that this defense is going to take a little bit of a step back. I mean, it really was one of the best, not the best, but it was one of the best college football defenses of all time. It was up there. It was a top 10 defense of all time in college football. It produced so much NFL talent, and I have faith that those guys are going to be good in the NFL. But if that's the case and Georgia wants to maintain that championship identity, the offense is going to have to step up a little bit. And I think with Gilbert being an addition, you don't really lose Pickens because he wasn't really playing last year until the end. And how much did he really play? But you essentially swapped Jermaine Burton for Eric Gilbert. So I think that's an upgrade in the long run. You're adding some tight end talent. I think the running backs are not going to take a step down. I think they're really catering towards A.D. Mitchell being a star. You get Dominic Blaylock. What are you going to get out of Dominic Blaylock? That's exciting. What are you going to get out of Arian Smith? It's all ifs, really. Well, if they play that well. And Stetson Bennett has the keys to the offense. He does. Stetson is in charge. And it's going to be a matter of, he made a snarky comment after G-Day, I throw to whoever's open. And he's something that he's going to have to do. He's going to have to spread the ball around to a really talented offense. They have Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, as the quote that I say a lot, that you guys have definitely heard me say at least a handful of times, Brock Bowers is one of the premier weapons in college football. He is. He would be drafted in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft this year. He would have. He's that special of a talent. And you're adding Gilbert to the other side, having them on the field at the same time, and potentially having Darnell Washington out there as a blocker and a Kenny McIntosh out there or an Arian Smith out there all at the same time. It's something that should be scary for some of these defenses, because they're just not going to be able to figure it out. If Georgia figures it out on offense, I have a hard time thinking that some of these SEC defenses and defensive coordinators can figure out how to stop it, because it really could be a pretty special year for Georgia on offense. I think they were going to be more explosive than they were last year. Kirby Smart's right. They need to get better. But the reason I think that is because if they want to win another national championship, I think the offense does have to improve a little bit, and the defense can't take a big step back. And it makes sense that it'll take a step back, but the offense needs to move forward, and I think it will. I think that's what we're going to see, an explosive offense. Kirby Smart talking about the offense, and obviously he just reaffirmed that Stetson is the guy going forward, so he reaffirmed that. That's no surprise to anybody. Make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION. Thanks for watching what this guy had to say. We'll see you at the site, dawgpost.com.